Welcome back to Skate Talk Online. I am so happy to be reviewing the Grand Prix final today, not only with PJ Kwong, CBC sports analyst that's been with me all season, but Meagan Duhamel, two-time world champion, and Olympic medalist of every single color. Meagan, you were at the event this weekend. What were your duties?
Well, thanks for having me on. I was at the event. I was working for the ISU, covering the Junior Grand Prix events that are live streamed on their YouTube channel. I got to commentate with Ted Barton for the pairs competition, the junior pairs short and long. And we did Facebook Lives and interviewed a lot of skaters. I did some video stuff on the gala practice on Sunday. And it was really fun to see a competition from the other side. I feel like I've never experienced a competition of that, obviously of that level, as anything but a skater. So I found it really interesting to just sit back and watch the skating and read the skaters in their press conferences and watch their body language and see how they dealt with the pressures of such a high competition.
And you had to have your running shoes on, right? Like I have for all these years. To get from one to the other.
And then a lot of late nights because we were waiting for press conferences to finish, medal ceremonies to finish, and then having to go and find skaters that wanted to do an interview, finding skaters that spoke English. When we were in that ladies event filled with Russians and the junior pairs event filled with Russians, and the senior ladies event, it was kind of hard to find English speakers, but we managed and we got them.
Right.
Let's start off with the pairs competition. James and Cipres ended up winning from France. Again, they had troubles with the short program. We've seen this all season. We've discussed this all season. What do you think it is about that program? Is it maybe the way the program is constructed, or do you think that they're just not confident going into the program? Because we've seen time and time again that they have to come back from a position that they're not used to being in because of that short program.
Well, I think myself, if you really watched them over the years, they've always been more inconsistent in the short than the free skate. Last year, I think it was the team event at the Olympics. She did a double sow. There's often been important competitions, Worlds in Helsinki, they fell on their twist. There's often been times where they've made funny mistakes in the short program, and they tend to be more relaxed when they start their free skate. And I feel like their nerves just show so much more in the short program.
I think there are also skaters, we've always talked about this, there are skaters who do better if they've got a hill to climb in the free. If you're already at the top of the hill and you're trying to stay, is a whole different mindset from me talking to skaters over the years, rather than having something to pursue. So there's something to be said for that as well.
And this is the very first time that they've had pressure and expectations. I'm sure that they always felt expectations and pressure from themselves, but this is probably the first time that they're experiencing it from outside of their own circle. And that takes some time to adjust.
And we mentioned in the preview, this is actually not only their first medal on the Grand Prix final, but it's the first time they've even qualified. So, you go in this year with all these teams that are either retired or taking a break or injured or whatever, and then you now step up into the position where you are expected to challenge for the gold medal. So maybe, part of the short program struggles are that the new expectation. It's like Meagan said, it's not something new. We've seen that throughout their careers where they struggle in the short. Moving on to the free skate, they skated really well. I think that, again, they need to just clean up the little things. She has this tendency on the throws to land a little bit forward, and then the run out stops completely, and that's something she does all the time. Side-by-side jumps look good. I just think that the overall polish of the programs, they're skating to the same kind of thing year after year. I think the polish should be a little bit more there than it is.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons they're so successful in the long is because they do repeat kind of like their comfort zone. And so it gives them confidence. But I think that they're also missing a lot of levels. We often see level 3s and level 2s from them. And once you're at this level, you need a string of level 4s. If you're getting a level 3, it better only be on the twist. You cannot be having level 3 lifts and level 3 death spirals anymore. And that's something that they continue to kind of have a problem with. And I don't know how many competitions it's been this year that they get a music deduction. I love Morgan's celebration at the end of the free skate, but it's losing them a point, and it's driving me crazy because I love numbers. And I'm like, oh my God, their score could be so much higher if they would just wait until the music stopped and then have all the victory that they want.
And the reason that they're getting the deduction is because he's not coming to a complete stop, and you have to do that to define that the program is
when
over.
The music is finishing. Like when the time frame of the long program is ended, they're still moving.
And One thing that I also noticed is I think the judges are a little bit generous on their PCS. We go back to those throws. She's pulling off they are as a team pulling off +3s sometimes on those throws. When you don't really have a run out, when you look at the Russian teams, for example, perfect landings almost every single time. Compare that to the French. They might have the height, they might have the distance, but that sudden jarring stop almost every single time, I really don't think that they should be getting GOEs that high, even if they are a top team. I mean, they could knock it down a little bit and still give them credit, but I don't think that they're deserving of that level, at least.
I think that this season, because they've kind of entered a higher echelon of pair skating. And we see that it happens, and it's happened to everybody, and it happened to my partner and I, where like we did the same jump and the same lift and the same twist for years, but all of a sudden when we were in this higher echelon, our +1 became a +2 or a +3. And I think sometimes the element has nothing to do with the increase of GOE over the season. Yeah. We often see that it's just with the momentum of the skater, all of a sudden, things get knocked up by 0.25 or 0.75 in components and by a GOE.
And I remember, Meagan, you actually did an interview, I think 2014 after the Olympics maybe, where you said, we took all of our transitions out and now we're getting higher scores. So, and you were very open about that. You didn't hide that. You said, the easier the program, we're getting the higher scores. So it just, it really doesn't make a lot of sense a lot of the time.
Sometimes it's just a head scratcher for the skaters as much as it is for the audience.
And it's interesting. We've talked a lot about the fact that the program component scores need to be applied evenly and correctly across all skaters. But there is a bit of a bump. You're right, for that final flight. I mean, that final flight is not a myth. It's the reality, unless you're Nathan Cheng at the Olympics. But that performance could not be denied. But you're absolutely right. It still is a little bit of it's almost like you get a bit of credit for, your lifetime achievement award.
Yes.
And there's something there's no doubt in my mind that you and Eric should have been at the top. So the fact that you were being recognized for that and the judging panel was ensuring that you were at the top, I'd like to see the result be the correct result. So, but I understand how it can be a head scratcher for sure.
And I remember competing for many years at the Grand Prix final, and I don't think it was so much the case this year, but it has in the past been the first team in the short got 28 for components. The second team got 29. The third team that skated got 30. Then it went to 31, 33, 35, or whatever for the final skaters. And it would just be in that exact order. The component score would be in the order that they skated their short program, which was the order they qualified for the Grand Prix final.
Yeah, previously it was that order.
Yeah.
So they, in the back of the judges' heads, they probably say, well, if this team is skating later, then they're obviously better. Because these judges aren't watching every single event like we might be. So you have to rely on those practices and kind of just that starting order throughout history. We've seen it means a lot. And I think when we get to dance, we're going to talk about that being maybe a big part of the result there. One final question I have about James and Cipres. Like I said, they've found their style for the last 3 years. We've seen short programs and free skates be in that same kind of style. Do you think their free skate this year builds as well as Sound of Silence or even Say Something?
I really liked their Say Something that they ended up ditching last season. I really like that music. I loved the choreography. Their scores pretty much stayed the same when they switched back to Sound of Silence, so I never really understood why they changed it. I love their free skate this year, as I loved Say Something and as I loved Sound of Silence. I find that the music doesn't build as much, but their skating does. And they engage the audience. That's what they do. And I feel like that helps so much with the build at the end of the program. They've got the audience going, which in turn they get the judges panel going and excited.
That Sound of Silence music I particularly loved. So that program I was particularly drawn to. I really like this season's performance as well. I think that it suits them. And tried and true, I get that. But this is a competition, and as a competitor, you want to give yourself the best possible edge. And I think that this is what is doing it for them.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Vanessa and Morgan, but if you're looking at the nitty-gritty details and at these judges' protocol sheets, you'll notice that they are one of the only teams at the senior level qualifying for the free skate at Worlds that's not doing a reverse lasso. they could add 0.5 to their overall score by adding the reverse lasso, which is the most difficult lift takeoff. They do a back lasso, which is worth a little bit less. It's just worth noting that they're kind of like leaving a little space of points, not just with their levels, not with the music deduction, but with the way that they've designed their program.
But you know what, Meagan? Okay, can I just say something about Cheng and Yang Jin? She apparently can't do a triple sow, so they elected to do a very solid double sow in the free program. So I think sometimes, like, if you can't do a reverse lasso, like, I don't know technically, like, from an experience point of view, is it difficult to learn that entry versus the other entry that you were just talking about? Like, maybe they can't do it? Is that possible?
Well, it is difficult, but with their ability and their technical expertise on their team, I think that they could learn it. And it's something that teams with much worse lift technique and basic skating skills are executing. So I don't see why it can't be learned.
Cool.
Moving on to Pang and Jin, as we just mentioned, surprise silver medalists here. Credit to them for really stepping it up in this event. I think the event was really sloppy aside from them. I've been a huge fan of their short program all season. I know that you two really love the program as well. It's very unexpected for them. You know, if you didn't really know this team, you would expect kind of a coldness or a kind of introverted personalities, and then we see the short program, and it's you know, it's a modern American rock song basically, and they really get into it and they have a lot of fun. There's an understanding to the music that I didn't really see before with them. I think that their free skate, while they're trying to be beautiful and they do have nice connection between them, I don't think it's as effective. And as we just mentioned to start off this conversation, they only do side-by-side double salchows. Why do you think they don't try at least a side-by-side double axel to gain a little bit more in terms of points there?
And we saw them do double axels for a year or two. Yeah. To be honest, in all the years that I've even competed with her, with both of her partners, I never saw her practice triple sows on the practice sessions.
Okay.
It's almost like it's an element that they know they can't do, so they don't like to try it at a competition. Shui and Han are another example where they'll save their triple sows for the last like 3 minutes of a practice session and miss a few and then, you know, go on to compete. And I just feel like I wonder how much they practice them when they're at home. Because that's what I see at a competition, which is obviously very different when you have limited time and you're in the judge's eyes on a practice. But I wonder if they practice these elements at home, or they just practice their skating skills and their twist and their lifts and their triple toe, because the triple toe is so important for them because of the short program.
That's a very interesting sort of comment. When you're right, when you're watching people in practice, it's completely different from going to a rink and watching a practice session. So, because it's everybody, you know, best face forward, do your best, and if you can't land something on practice after a couple of attempts, move on to something else that you can land, so that the impression isn't that you are falling apart at the competition. So, but they were absolutely darling in that short program. That was the moment of a good, one of the best moments of the competition, in fact, for me, was watching that short program. I just loved it. She looked like she was just the happiest person on the planet skating that program, and it was just so infectious that it was just so much fun. I was watching the program with I was doing commentary for CBC on the live feed with Dylan Moskovich, and he agreed. He loved that program and thought that it was kind of the moment of the competition. So I always take a backseat to the pair skaters when we're talking pairs, because you guys actually know what you're looking at way more than I do, that's for sure.
Well, I like the character-driven Peng skating much better than the classical lifeless Peng skating. I don't want to call their free skate at the Grand Prix final lifeless, though, because I think it was the most expressive I've seen them do a free skate, but it lacks in comparison to what they bring to the short.
And it's surprising. I don't think anybody would have thought for a Chinese team that has these big elements that, you know, oftentimes does have the more reserved personalities. I think people would expect the opposite. I do think that their free skate here looked much more romantic, if you will, than it has earlier in the season. But again, I think that the short program is more the direction they should go after, because it's setting them apart a little bit, and they're doing well with it, and you can see that they enjoy it.
The judges like it.
Yeah, it's a work in progress too, that free program. So it has grown since we first saw it, and I think that it will continue to grow. And it speaks sometimes to the comfort of the actual skater in trying to portray something that maybe they're not 100% sure of, and they're trying to find a pathway into that kind of expression. So we've got 3 months till Worlds, so who knows what's going to happen between now and then.
Talking about a pathway, let's talk about Tarasova and Morozov and their short program. This is, Meagan, for example, okay, you skated last year against this team. Their free skate last year was not well received from the beginning. They stuck with it. They didn't really make any changes to it. You could see that they were not comfortable competing it. The year before, they had kind of a cheesy music for their free skate as well. They stuck with that. They got a little bit of criticism with that. They go into this year, they have a short program. They dump it because they don't like it. So what do? They come out with another program in that same kind of cheesiness. And you can see he just does not get it. He does not feel the music. She tries to hold the team together and at least express a little bit, but he's just not into it at all. So why do you think that their team keeps going this direction if the program last year was so poorly received?
That's the thing that makes me wonder as well. And I'm also curious, what type of music do they like to listen to just in life? Like, what music does he connect to? He's a very introverted person, as well as a very introverted skater, lacking a little bit of interpretation when it comes to these type of programs. The only conclusion I can come to was that last season, we all know that their long program was not a good vehicle. They looked uncomfortable, they rarely connected, and they rarely skated it well. But they were still getting 74 to 75 PCS in that long program. So the judges didn't seem to mind the program. So from my own experience as well, why would you change something if you're still being rewarded for it? A few years ago, we tried to do a short program to seal. And all season long, I was saying, it's not working, we should change it. But then we'd look at our scores and be like, well, with a mistake, we're still scoring 73 points. So when we skate it clean, we will still score high. So that's why we didn't change it, because the judges were still giving us pretty good components. So as long as they're still getting high scores for these programs, I don't see them changing it. Although we can all see that it's clearly not working for them.
But by comparison to last year, when it looked like my mother's making me skate to this music kind of expression, this year, I first of all, the music is not nearly as Candyman-ish as last year's. So this year, he even sort of like almost smiled in a couple of places. So although you're right, that sort of reserved, kind of elegant, kind of presenting the partner kind of persona that he has, I don't mind it. Like, I'm somebody that if you want to try something, this is the season in which to try it. You know, when there's lots of time left before the Olympic Games. I love their free program. I just love everything about it. But the short program, I don't mind. And this, Tony and I have argued about this before. We're still speaking, Tony and I are. But I don't think it's as much of a disaster as last year's program was, where really it was quite cringeworthy for those of us sitting on the outside of the rink, because you sort of felt like, oh my goodness, this is my mother's making me skate to this music program. So this year I don't feel that. And maybe, just maybe, you're right, they are being rewarded anyway. And maybe that this is an attempt to start to bring him out of his shell. Maybe this is an attempt to try and get him to be more expressive. So I don't object to it in the same way that last year I was just like, I hope it's over quickly.
I just can't understand how a team that so clearly, element for element, pretty much, they have the best elements in the world. They have amazing skating skills. How are they so mismanaged in the area of programs, music, choreography? I don't mind people experimenting. I'm all for it. I think that even a bad experiment makes you grow as a skater and as a human, like, for sure. But I just wish that they would experiment with a different style and not a kind of repeated style. Like, sometimes I see him do like this little move that like should be like suave, and he barely moves his neck, and he kind of looks like he wants to roll his eyes. And I feel bad for him because he looks so uncomfortable, and I'm like, oh, poor guy.
I just see their potential, and I think that everybody sees their potential, and they are a traditional team. They have beautiful lines. They have beautiful everything, and it's frustrating to see that they're, it's fine to experiment like the Chinese did, and it works, but this just is not working. Yeah. And if you can compare them a little bit to Stolbova and Klimov when they were together, because they were not the most expressive skaters. But what they did is they chose music that was dynamic and dramatic, and that angst and that angriness that they had towards each other almost came out in the program as being, you know, this mood. And if you're going to go that direction, then you can go that direction, and it works if you skate well. I think the free skate of Tarasova and Morozov is heavily influenced by the Germans from their free skate last year. I think it has the same kind of building quality to it. But that said, I think that it fits their skating. And regardless of whether they have a really great skate or an okay skate like they had here, I still really like it. And whether he emotes or not, the music doesn't really ask for that much over-the-top theatrics. So you can get away with it there. And that's why, I think a long time ago, like 15 years ago, Toltmina and Marinin were very similar. You know, they were very reserved, and they skated in the Hall of the Mountain King. Like, it started off slow, and then it got really big. And I wish they would do something in that direction, because that program really broke them out of that kind of boring spell just based on the music. So I just wish they would go a different direction, and I don't know why their team, especially Nina Moser, who is so excellent with so many teams, I don't know why she doesn't see that it's just not working.
Well, I was told that the Candyman music was her, and she, at the Olympics, still believed that that was the best music in the pairs event.
Wow.
So, I don't know.
Have the earphones in? Just asking.
Okay, let's move on to Saviochenko and Enbert. They look strong in their second Grand Prix event in Japan. Here they did not. I think I really like their look this year. I like her look. I like their kind of, not gothic, but dark kind of angsty look that we didn't see from them before. I do like the direction of their short, and one comment I've had all season is I just wish that the choreography was more cohesive. They have little bits of choreography here and there, but it's like they do it, and then 2 seconds later they're breaking character to focus on the next element. And I wish it would just be more of a smooth line. Free skate, though, it's just not doing it for me. The music is just at one level the entire time. I just don't get any... I get what they're trying to do with it, but I don't think it works. I actually almost prefer their free skate of last season, which was like a ballet lesson, and then at the end was actually the actual performance. I think that was the story behind it. It was more traditional, but it worked better for me. What did you guys think?
I think that this is another team that we never see a second jump from, other than a triple toe. So you're always certain that that long program is going to have one mistake. I like how we've seen over the last 2 years a big upgrade in their throws. Not too long ago, they were only doing a throw double axel, and now they've put in the throw triple lutz. Like only 2 seasons ago, it was a throw double axel, I believe. So they've made tremendous progress in that area. I find that in their free skate, there was a lot of sloppiness. The catch of the twist was a little bit off. Of course, the one throw and then completely missing a lift. I feel like they're like a mini version of Tarasova and Morozov in a way that they skate very grand, and they have great skating skills as they come around the corner into lifts and into throws. But other than that, their programs are fairly empty.
I also, that short program to me, it just didn't really do anything for me. I thought I could understand between the costuming and the slashing and stuff that what they were trying to do. For me, I don't see them in the same vein as I see Tarasova and Morozov. Tarasova and Morozov, I could watch all day. I love the way that they look on the ice. I love their match. I love all of it. Saviochenko and Enbert, I sometimes watch her and I sometimes watch him. I don't have that sort of cohesive as one feeling for whatever reason. So, there are moments where I think, wow, I love this team. And then they sort of feel like they kind of not walk, but they sort of are like off in different places. And I want to see more focus towards each other. That would perk up the programs for me for sure.
Another team that has, their scores have now taken a big increase now that they've entered a higher echelon of pair skating. Their clean short program now going between 33 and 35 for program components. At the beginning of last season, they were 28, 29. And they haven't added substantial amounts of transitions or choreography or interpretation. And their skating skills are the same as they were. So what is the increase in PCS in regards to?
They are clearly the second Russian team.
I would like to know it as a skater as well. I feel like the skaters themselves are interested in sometimes knowing these details.
Sure. That
it doesn't have to make any sense. There's going to be no explanation for it.
Well, I know, but it's sad.
Yeah, it should make sense though, and that's the thing.
If they added, okay, this year they have a transition into their throw and out of their throw and out of their twist. It's like, okay, yes, I see it, but I don't see a jump. Throughout last season, it went from 28 and all the way to the low to mid 30s by Worlds, and now even more an increase for a team that's still skating almost the same.
And remember, this system is not comparing skaters to each other. This is out of a 10.0, and you're supposed to be looking at this individual performance and saying, okay, what criteria did they fulfill to get an 8? What did they get to get a 9? And sometimes it's all over the place. Even from competition to competition, if you skate early in a competition, your scores might go way down.